guys, so I wanted to do a sit down talk video. Today the quality is not going to be the best, but I wanted to talk about why I haven't been posting the past couple months. I'm going to say around this time last year I was diagnosed with an illness called endometriosis. I'm sure many of you know about the illness. For those of you who don't, endometriosis is a disease in which the endometrial tissue, which is your uterine lining, there's a very similar tissue to the endometrium that will grow outside of your uterus. It'll grow in other parts of the body, and it typically stays within the abdominal cavity, though you can get it anywhere. There have been cases of people having it in their brain, in their shoulders, in their knees, although that's much less common than having it in the abdominal cavity. For those of you who don't know, the abdominal cavity is from like your ribs to your hips. That's what's considered the abdominal cavity. What endometriosis does is that tissue, that uterine-like tissue, acts like it's still in your uterus. So what does that mean? That means that there will be, that tissue still bleeds and sheds and has its own, they have their own hormone levels that bleed and shed throughout the menstrual cycle. Now what does that mean? Doesn't sound good, definitely does not sound good, but what does that actually mean? So what that entails is scar tissue and adhesions to form where the blood has pooled, because the blood has nowhere to go in the body. So it forms adhesions. What adhesions are is when it's like scar tissue that may pull organs towards other organs. There have been cases, especially with endometriosis, where the bladder is attached to the uterus and is attached to the bowel. There have been cases where ovaries have been stuck to like sidewall, like there have been so many things. Now what does this cause? This causes me to be in severe pain about 3 weeks out of the month. So I get about 1 good week, and that's the week typically before my period starts, and that's when all hell breaks loose once my period starts. During that time, I typically can't really work. I can't really function as a person. I sit at home with a heating pad on my stomach, and I'm like crying in pain. So last year I got this diagnosis. Why did I get this diagnosis? Well, I was just recently in a new relationship with my boyfriend, and I was on a birth control method called the NuvaRing, which is known to cause some sensitivity to the cervix, which is where the NuvaRing is inserted. So my boyfriend and I, when we were having sex, I was in excruciating pain. It wasn't so bad at first. It was like a rug burn. It was uncomfortable and I didn't want to have sex. And it kind of went from there to like me crying in pain, which is when we kind of stopped and we were like, this really isn't normal. So I went to my gynecologist, and she had said that it might be endometriosis. So she put me on something called an IUD. For those who don't know, it's an intrauterine device, looks shaped just like a T. And I was given the Mirena, which releases hormones throughout, well, not throughout my body, but they're hormones that will stay with their local hormones. The theory behind this is because it'll stop my periods altogether, if I don't have a period anymore, I can't be in pain. Because at that point in time, the pain was isolated to my period and the week that I was on my period and nothing else. So after about, I want to say 6 or 7 months with the IUD, my pain did not improve at all. And she had said after about 6 months my pain should improve. It did not at all. Like when I say at all, I was in worse pain than before. I don't think it was related to the IUD, though it might have been. It might have been related to like how the hormones were released in my body. I think it made my pain a little bit worse. So I went back to my gyno about 7 months out of having the IUD placed, and she said to give it a couple more months, and did a pelvic exam in which she found I had a yeast infection, and she said that might be contributing to my pain. And I was like, yeah, okay, and I took some Monistat, I was fine. Still had pain though, and then at this point in time my pain went from being, I'm gonna say that was October of last year. This had happened. End of October, maybe early November, this had happened. My gynecologist said that if my pain did not get any better, I might need surgery. That is super horrifying to me. Surgery is terrifying. I got surgery on my ankle 2 years ago, and I was crying the day before surgery because I was so freaked out because of all the complications that can happen when you go under anesthesia. I then went to get a second opinion because I was like, it can't just be surgery. Surgery cannot be the only option. And I did my research on surgery, and I wasn't too fond of what it entailed. The endometrial tissue can still grow back. Essentially what surgery it does is they're going to go in, they're going to scrape out my organs, get rid of all the endometriosis that they can find, and yeah. I did my research and I found out surgery is the only actual diagnostic tool for endometriosis. I also found out that in, I believe it was 50% of cases, the endometriosis will grow back and women will be in the same amount of pain 2 years out. So I was weighing my options of surgery or no surgery, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about surgery. So I went to go get a second opinion from another gynecologist who my boyfriend's mother sees and swears by, and I looked on their website and they had a whole tab dedicated to endometriosis and how they perform their endometriosis surgeries. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. So they're not necessarily experts, but at least they know enough that they have a tab open. So I went there and they gave me more options than what my gynecologist had given me, which was to which was 2 medications, or Lupron or Orlissa. Those were the 2 options, or surgery. I did research on those medications and I did not like anything I read about any of them. Lupron and Orlissa are both chemotherapy drugs. Lupron is a higher dosage than Orlissa. Lupron is chemotherapy. They're both chemotherapy drugs. And what they do is they throw my body into menopause. Mood swings, heat flashes, all those fun things are included. They also are known to cause bone density issues and osteoporosis. I'm very fragile as is, and I know that I don't take care of my body the way that I should. So I don't have enough calcium in my body. I've gotten bone density scans in the past that have turned out to be within the range of normal, but I was not comfortable with having a chemotherapy in my body, especially since I, again, did lots of research on this medication, and these drugs have not actually been proven to help with anything. They were originally marketed for men with prostate cancer, and then then after men rejected the medication because of the side effects, they said, oh, without too much testing, they said, oh, this will help lady problems, and then they marketed it for endometriosis. With the endometriosis, it's not proven to slow or stop the growths. It's not even proven to help women with pain. So I then spoke to people in endometriosis groups, like support groups that I'm in, about these medications and about surgery and what they would recommend, and every single person recommended surgery. I was like, okay. So at this point, I had my mind dead set on surgery. I now needed to find what's called an excision specialist, because there are two ways to get rid of endometriosis. We have excision and we have ablation. Excision is when they actually remove the tissue, kind of like you would remove a tumor. Ablation is when they burn it off, and it causes the endometriosis to grow like wildfire. So I was then looking for a pelvic pain and endometriosis specialist, specifically an endometriosis specialist. I live in New Jersey, I live in Central Jersey. Almost everything is in New York City for me, but I do not have the ability to spend a day in New York City going to a doctor's appointment. So I went to, there was someone, oh my goodness, about an hour away from me in Princeton. And so I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds fine. So I went there, and the woman performed a pelvic exam and said that the reason I was having pain with sex is because I have a pelvic floor dysfunction. She did, like I said, she performed a pelvic exam, which she touched the muscles around my uterus, and she sent me I was through the wall in pain, and she had said that the muscles around my vagina were so tight that was causing some of that pain that I was feeling. And then she said that she had felt some disfigurement inside my body that was signifies endometriosis. While that's not an official diagnosis, that is the most information I had gotten in a very long time. She then went down the list of options, told me about Lupron or Lissa, and then there was this nasal spray that she said she's never prescribed in the history of ever, and told me that my best option was surgery. So that leaves us with today. Next Friday, I go in for surgery, and next Friday, and I will keep everybody updated on that. I'll probably try to film right before I go in, and while I am, and when I wake up. We'll see how I feel, and I'll probably do it's a 2-week recovery time, and I'll probably keep you guys posted, or I will try to, depending on how I'm feeling. If I feel like absolute shit, I'm not picking up my camera. So that is what has been going on with me. I wanted to kind of give you what's been going on and my endo story so far. I'm going for pelvic floor PT next month, and I'm hoping that's going to help some with the pain. If you guys have any questions for me about any of this, please let me know. I will be more than happy to answer your questions. All right, bye.